Hey guys, Alex from 7th Hour Films back again with Jujutsu Kaisen. Last time around we had Hidden Inventory, where basically we're back in time, even further than the movie actually, and we're seeing Gojo and Geto when they were in high school at Jutsu High, where Gojo said it's best if only the strong survive, and Geto was like, no, we as the strong need to protect the weak. So at some point, we're going to be waiting for those two viewpoints to be flopped. So yeah, they have been tasked with protecting the Star Plasma Vessel, aka a teenage girl who, I guess a younger teenage girl, like younger than them teenage girl, and protect her for 2 days so that she can be absorbed by Tree Man. Yes, that is the current plot, and they are running into something called Q, which is some sort of jutsu sorcery group that wants to kill the girl, and also there's a religious group that wants to kill the girl too, but apparently they suck, so they have hired a Zenin, or, as he is now known, Fushiguro. So, yeah, that's pretty much where we left. We left with Geto and Gojo in the thick of battle, trying to protect the young girl. So, yeah, that's pretty much where we left off. Like always, the reaction is down in the description and in the pinned comment for your viewing pleasure. So let's go ahead and jump right into this episode of Jujutsu Kaisen. Here we go. Alrighty. I don't know how much to talk about this episode. Don't do it again. I don't know. I don't get everything that's happening. Like, okay, I get the most important thing, which is Gojo and Geto rescue, protect Riko. Also, her cool maid is there too. Her maid, who is also a jutsu sorcerer. Now, granted, I guess Riko knows more about this than I thought she would. So, I'm ready for Fushiguro to do something. Which, ironically, was also something I said last season as well. For different reasons. Last season, the Fushiguro we were following, well, we weren't really following. He was, cut out of a large portion of that season and forgotten. And it was only at the end, really, that he came back and became a major character again. Different problem for this Fushiguro is, he's not doing anything. Like, at all. Like, we had that tease last episode, which I swear his voice was deeper last episode. But now, all we see is he's terrible at bets and isn't doing his job. Like, that's it. That's all we saw of him today. Is him just sitting there on his phone being like, I'll get to it later. It's like, later? It's like, buddy, we have a show we're trying to do, Which, I mean, at least we had, we had Bagman and Old Guy. Bagman and the Old Guy, who are kind of, they're okay. I will say, okay. Was this a problem last season? Well, it was, but for a different reason, I feel like. But I guess it kind of was, alright, here's a major problem, I think, with Jujutsu Kaisen. They're kind of more interested in telling you things instead of showing you things. I think that's been one of my major problems with this show. Now, the other major problem is how they treated Fushiguro and Kukisaki last season, but that kind of did get resolved, We had the exchange event, and then we had the the we had the fight at the end of the season, so it kind of helped, but this show really likes to just talk about things, you know? Which was kind of the problem in the movie, too. When Gato shows up, and he's like, oh, let's talk about philosophy and everything. And it's just like, I don't care. Just fight, for God's sake. Like, don't tell me these things. Show me these things, you know? And I admit Gato is better in this arc, mainly just because he's not expounding philosophy all the time. But I mean, that whole scene where, like, we hear the old man's thoughts, is like, so he's trying to, he's got a more advanced technique than mine, but he doesn't know that I know that this and this, and he never, Shikigami user, like, he never steps forward because he's bad at close combat, but if he thinks that I don't know this, that I'm going to do this thing, and it's just like, oh my god, just fight! You're a shonen action series, just fight, for God's sake. Why do you have to talk so much? And even like, oh, let's have an entire explanation of how Gojo's powers work. Like, but we don't need that. I understand the characters need that. Like, Bagman needed that. Rico needed that, because they haven't seen the last season, obviously. They haven't seen the last season. This is a prequel. So they need to understand how Gojo's powers work. But it was like a full minute explanation of shit we already know. We already know this. Like, you gotta find a better way of saying that. Like, now, explaining Bagman's powers, sure. It's like, oh, they're clones, and, you know, he can choose which of the clones is the main body. So when the main body is in danger, he just swaps it over to a different clone. Simple, succinct, easy, sure. But then to have like a minute-long explanation of how Gojo's powers work, when we've already had how Gojo's powers work, just say like, it's like, my power is infinity. It allows me to mess with the boundaries and the density of space. So even if you attack me, it will, your attack will just never get to me. Just say that. Just say he can mess with like the density of space. Just say it simply. Don't go through this entire big explanation. It's like, I've seen a season of this. And then on top of that, Fushiguro, he's just constantly just on his phone, like, yes, we're going to talk about something. It literally just boils down to, hey, why aren't you going and doing your job? I'm not going to do it right now, but I will do it later. That took 5 minutes for them to explain that. Like, why even tease Fushiguro in the last episode then? Like, what was the point if he's not going to do anything, you know? Like, literally the highlight of this episode is the scene in the chapel where all the girls are fawning over Gojo and Rico is pissed. And I like Rico. Like, she's interesting. Like, she's completely not what I thought she would be, you know? She's not what I thought she would be. She knows everything about Tengen and understands that she's going to be absorbed. And she's also kind of a firecracker. I like her. I like Rico. So that's great. But, like she's the highlight, but everything else, I don't know. Man. I don't understand Jujutsu Kaisen. And 26 episodes and a movie in, I should not still be having questions about how this show works. Like, just the writing, I don't understand the writing. Everything feels first draft, which is weird because the first draft, like, on a technical level is the manga, and then you adapt it. Even then, the manga, I assume the manga wasn't first draft. Obviously this guy, worked on this, probably had his drafts, then did all the drawings, he did all the paneling and the story and everything. and it was solidified, and then Mappa took this and then adapted it into an anime. But every time I question the writing, the pacing, the overuse of just explaining. Just shut up and fight. Just shut up and fight. You're a Mappa anime. We want to see you fight. Just do it, for God's sake. Don't have this whole thing of, well, if he knows, if I know, and if he knows, then I know, and then I'll be able to beat him. And it's just like, shut up. Shut up. Just fight. Just fight. And then it's like, and like maybe the best part of that was like, Geto can create visions. I guess he can just do that, and it's like, okay, sure, and we get to know a bit of the backstory of the guy, but like, who cares? Who cares? I don't care about this random guy that's getting his ass kicked. Just, I don't know, man. Just fight. Just stop with all the talking. And it's weird because last episode I thought was really good, you know? Like, last episode was like, okay, you know, like, there was explaining, sure. Like, they had to explain Riko and the whole situation with her. But, like, I don't know. And maybe just the stuff with, like, I like the stuff with Utahime. Like, that stuff was good. And there was a lot of talking in that, but it was like, but they were, like, trying to figure something out, you know? It was, like, important to the scene. Listening to the inner monologue of this old guy who's about to get his ass kicked by Geto, that's not actually important to this scene. Because who cares about this guy? He's going to lose anyway, you know? You know, I'm going to say this might also just be a rare case. I think all the female characters are vastly more interesting than the male characters in this show. I know this is a shonen. It's meant for boys, so it will star boys. Like, with the exception of, like, Fushiguro, maybe Yuta, I guess, and then Panda and Toge, you know, for just because they are kind of interesting. But it's like, honestly, I think all the men in this show are not as interesting as the women. Like, I'm just gonna put that out there. Like, I like Riko. I like her maid. Like, she's really cool. I liked Utahime and Mei, and I like the was it Shoko, the other girl there. I like Kugisaki. I like Maki. Mai, not really, but I mean, I at least get Mai. Like, I understand Mai. I like Miwa. That's just because she's so pathetic. There's like, how can you not like Miwa? Do we count Hanami? I don't know. But that's the thing when it's like, you know, oh, here's this episode. Like last season, we had the episode where it's like, oh, you know, it's all of them. They're fighting Hanami. And then, here comes Itadori and Todo to fight Hanami. And I'm like, okay, I'm not that interested in the two of them, but sure. I guess Nanami is the other. Like, Nanami and Fushiguro are like the center, like... So maybe that's it. It's not even that, like, oh, the women are written better. It's just, they just are more interesting characters than a lot of the men. But that's not to say it's like there's just an inherent, you know, gender difference, because it's like, no, there are a handful of male characters in this show that are interesting. Fushiguro, Yuta, Nanami, Panda, Toge, all of them are interesting. Gojo is getting less interesting as time goes on. Geto is only interesting because he's not the Geto we have seen before, you know? Fushiguro, like, okay, yeah. So what I've been talking about is Megumi. Megumi is the interesting one. His dad is not interesting at the moment. I don't know, man. I guess you could say that's an even 50-50, but... like, I could say, like, half of the characters are really interesting, but that half that's interesting to me is not the half that's focused on in this show. I think that's my issue, is that half of the characters that I'm interested in are not the main drivers of the show. And it's like, I'd rather the show be about them, you know? Like, I'd rather the show be about Megumi, you know? And Kugisaki. Itadori, like, he was fine at first, but they just, I don't know, they haven't done anything with him, you know? He's got this whole thing about killing people, but it doesn't, like, nothing happens from that. I don't know. Every time, I'm sick of complaining about Jujutsu Kaisen. I don't know how you guys are watching this, but I'm sick of watching. I'm not sick of watching Jujutsu Kaisen. I'm still enjoying it, but it's like I'm sick of me complaining about it. Like, I want to just turn my brain off and just be like, good. He summoned the worm and he almost ate him. I'd rather just do that, but my mind, I just can't. I can't turn this off. I can't. I don't know. We're going to go through this season. We're going to go through season 2. I'm going to hope everything gets turned around and I get to enjoy Jujutsu Kaisen. If things keep going the way they're going, I don't want to say I'm going to drop this after season 2, but the future is uncertain. It is uncertain. Hopefully, everyone says season 2 is 10 out of 10. I've seen a lot of people actually that say season 2 is 10 out of 10 and that season 1 is kind of mid. I don't know if I can say that. I mean, some of it I didn't care for. That whole Junpei arc I thought was so unnecessary. I don't know. And again, this is, we're kind of getting to the thing. We're kind of getting the same thing as with the movie with this arc. It's like, okay, what is this telling us? What is this showing us that we absolutely had to see? We had to spend multiple episodes on this. What is this telling us that we did not know in season 1 that we need to know going into the rest of season 2? And so far, really the only thing right now is Geto. Because, I don't really... Gojo, I don't think was really in that sort of a place where it's like, we need to know about, this thing in Gojo's youth where it made him into the man he is today. It's like, he's still pretty much the man he was anyway. He's just kind of less of a dick now. But it's like, we really didn't ask for that. I didn't ask for a story about Gojo in his youth, I'd like more Gojo, sure, but I didn't ask for a story of Gojo in his youth. I also didn't really ask for a story of Geto in his youth, but this is now the only thing that this arc is doing to tell me anything, to be relevant. Could be worse. It could certainly be worse. This isn't even like Jujutsu Kaisen isn't even bad. It could be so much worse. It could be the 6th season of My Hero Academia. That was dog shit. This is not. This is... That's like a step above mid. It's still good. It's still entertaining. I just figure out your writing problems, man. Write a second draft. Whoever's writing this, you gotta make a second draft, man. I don't know. I'm curious. You know what? Actually, that's an interesting thought. I don't think this season would have been rushed. This came out, I think last year. This came out last year. If the first season came out, 2019, I mean, they had to do the movie in between, but still, it's not like Attack on Titan, where MAPPA came into it, and they were completely unprepared and called it the final season when they still had 90-something episodes left. So... it doesn't seem to be the Attack on Titan fiasco of season 4. Attack on Titan, that 4th season was a train wreck and a half, but so at least it's not that. It's still good. I have my concerns every time. That's enough of that. With that said, I'm Alex from 7th Hour Films, and I will see you guys next time, and we'll bitch about something else, I'm sure. See you guys there. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around any of those. There's a playlist with all of my Jujutsu Kaisen reactions, as well as another video you can go click on if you want. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.